Hello and welcome back to another Captain Harris video with the whole gang. Today we just wanted to get together and kind of chat about one of the little ideas I had. No speculation, nothing crazy about the tour, but just how we got into the band, and we'd like to hear how you also got into the band too. So this is, funny enough, a conversation that we had on a long car ride home after one of the Maiden shows this fall, and I thought that it would make for a really nice video topic.
Nice little chat to reminisce.
Well, I figured it'd be a good topic because I feel like everybody has that memory of the first time they heard them and then how they went down the rabbit hole and became, a big fan of anything. So, Logan, do you want to start?
Yeah. So I was in roughly here in the States, 4th, 5th grade. So that's about anywhere between the ages of 9 and 10 years old. And my stepdad had a bunch of CDs, and he was, I wouldn't say a metalhead, but he had these CDs. And so one day he knew that I was getting into more like rock music, listening to like the radio. And so he gave me three albums. The first Rush album, which I thought was not good, because that's not what a 10-year-old wants to hear, without someone guiding them.
Yeah.
No Prayer for the Dying, interesting choice, and Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. So of course, Sabbath was my number one for a long time. And I slowly, would listen to more metal, get into more metal, listen to Megadeth, listen to Metallica. But as James was saying, like, Maiden, I knew of the imagery, but I never saw them, heard them. They weren't in Wayne's World, or they didn't have a song on, what's it called, the Last Action Hero. With
They never played Eurovision.
Yeah, they never, yeah, well, these are the different things about Maiden that didn't happen. So I eventually said, what, I'm going to get into them. I went to the record store, went to Walmart, and they had Number of the Beast. I was like, oh, picked it up, listened to it. I was like, wow, this is a real treat. And I never listened to any other Maiden. So I only had Number of the Beast. Then, as I said, Sabbath and Ozzy were like my number ones. I go to my first Ozfest, and I hear about the egg incident, the Egg Fest. And I said, fuck Iron Maiden. Fuck Bruce Dickinson. How dare he do that to Ozzy? How dare they do that to Sabbath? Talk all that shit. And I'm glad they got egg. I wanted nothing to do with Iron Maiden. I thought that there was never a chance that I would ever be an Iron Maiden fan. I remember a buddy of mine a few years after that showed me Peace of Mind, and I said, this album is no good. I've already heard Number of the Beast. This just sounds like the B-sides Number of the Beast. Not interested. Time went on. And I eventually was walking through the record store again. At this time, it's now an FYE. I've moved on. I'm no longer at the Walmart, now at the mall.
Right.
So I'm at the FYE, the For Your Entertainment, and I see the album cover for Somewhere in Time. And I'm like, that's pretty sick. That is pretty sick, though. I'll give it a try. And I was blown away. Yeah. I thought, this is it. And then I realized that was back when they re-released the albums. They had like the Eddie as like the picture. And I was like, well, I got to collect all the albums now. So I bought all the records just to be a completist. And I really just stuck with Number of the Beast, Somewhere in Time, and Seventh Son. Those were like my 3 in rotation. And then as time went on, I was like, oh, the new album's coming out. Oh, I was excited. And then it was A Matter of Life and Death, which was not as exciting for me at the time. Now I think A Matter of Life and Death is amazing. And it wasn't until I remember I was at a show in 2008. I was seeing Iced Earth at the House of Blues, so many years before.
Rip.
Before such times. And there was a guy wearing his Somewhere in Time shirt, and I said, oh, I would love to see Maiden. And he said, you'll never see them. They'll never come to Florida. And of course, the very next year, they played Fort Lauderdale, and the rest is history. Now I spend too much of my time and money on Iron Maiden. So that's my start.
I just love that you started out like not liking them.
Yeah, thought they were cool. Then I wanted them to never exist again. But then I was like, this band is the truth.
It's interesting because I have a similar thing where I didn't have an opinion on them, and then somebody guided me to not like them, and then I had to do this discovery myself and be like, wow, that guy's crazy. But are you done?
No, yeah. I'd love to hear how you had to climb your way into Maiden,
because we all had to do it ourselves.
You're right.
So for me, I was obsessed through my father's introduction of music to me. He gave me Back in Black to learn on guitar when I started learning when I was 12 years old.
Classic.
So that's why I'm a big AC/DC fan, is because all like the first songs I ever learned was AC/DC, but it was also the first time I got into, you know, harder music, guitar-driven music. Mm-hmm. And while it's simple, you know, it's a springboard for what's next. And I was already, you know, of the opinion that nobody could ever beat AC/DC. And I had a friend in middle school in band class that I was sat next to based on the alphabet.
Classic.
I got a T name, so I had a T name next to me. It just so happened to be a metalhead that was totally into Maiden and Metallica.
Interesting.
And I was trying to tell him, look, I don't care about the shit you listen to. I listen to Back in Black only.
No other album, only that album.
Well, I was currently like in my discovery phase of AC/DC and collecting all of their albums, so I pretty much completed that within like a year. And then this guy was like, you gotta listen to Maiden, you gotta listen to Maiden. And then once we got split up from like beginning band, and I got to pick what I wanted to play, we were all playing recorders. Yeah, exactly, that's what we were doing. And I played that good enough to get chair 1 on the drums.
Yes, the recorder to drum pipeline.
Yes, exactly. So I ended up being a drummer, and he was not. So I got split up from him, and I ended up with some other friends, and they were into like the Who and the Beatles and stuff like that. This is the 2000s, by the way. And my friend said, "Oh, don't listen to that guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Maiden's super satanic. They're just like Marilyn Manson." That was my first like opinion I heard of that band, other than the guy that was obsessed. And because that guy was my best friend, you know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
I said, okay, I believe you. So I was just like, fuck Iron Maiden.
Fuck Marilyn Manson, fuck Iron Maiden. I can't believe they toured together.
And then the next year, we had the same class, all the same kids. And for some reason, that kid that told me about Maiden, he was allowed to play a song of his choice over the loudspeaker in the band room. I don't know how he made that happen. All I know is that the Trooper started playing. Of course, I didn't know it was the Trooper at the time. All I heard was da-da-da-da, 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 and I was like, boing. Oh, what? And I don't know, just a switch was flicked in me, and I looked.
I'll say.
Flick of the switch.
Yeah. And I looked around. I looked around to everybody else in the room, and nobody gave a shit or even noticed that there was this music playing, and I was enthralled.
Like, is anyone else hearing this?
And I got all the way through it, and I remember, like, it was still playing while we were putting our, like, trumpets and shit back in the lockers. I didn't have a trumpet, I was a drummer. But, and I just remember my friend saying, like, that was garbage. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? As a 13-year-old.
Yeah, 13-year-old. You fucking joking me?
And I just like walked away from them, and I had to go up to that guy that I had originally brushed off. I was like, this guy's crazy. And I was like, what was that song? And he was like, that was Iron Maiden. It was a song called The Trooper. And I was like, wow, okay. My birthday was coming up, so I told my parents, I like Iron Maiden, and I like the song The Trooper. And they were like, that doesn't mean anything to me. So for my 14th birthday, I got a gift in the shape of a CD, and I opened it up, and it was Dance of Death.
Love it. Beautiful Trooper rendition.
So I know, all I wanted to hear again was the Trooper, because I didn't even know about YouTube at that point. Like, this is the mid-2000s.
Was even around yet? Maybe not.
Well, it's like
Just the beginning
music
years,
at that time.
the beginning times of YouTube. And I didn't have like a computer in my room or anything, so I don't know. And I got Dance of Death, and I looked on the back, and I was like, who are these old fucks? And I played it through a CD player in the car, and that was my first listen to. Well, I mean, from a 14-year-old, I'm like looking at these old guys on the back, like, I didn't even know when they started or anything. I knew nothing. I just
didn't know, yeah.
All I had was Dance of Death in my hand and a CD player, and I listened to it all the way through for the first time. So my first Maiden listen was an entire album
of Dance of Death.
Of Dance of Death. And, you know, later I realized, like, of course they got Dance of Death. That was the newest album at the time. So that was probably at the front of the stack of whatever, you know, they were trying to find a CD. and I fell in love with Dance to Death. My first favorite song was New Frontier, which I don't like at all anymore.
You don't like that song anymore?
No, it's to me that's like the most generic song on the album. I love Adrian's solo on it though. It's great. Actually, it's a Nico song. My first favorite Maiden song was
a Nico song
written by Nico McBrain. So
shout out to Nico McBrain. We know you
are a fan
of the Captain Harris gang.
But anyway, to wrap it up, that album captured me on my 14th birthday, and because I also got some money for my birthday, we ended up going to downtown Disney at the time. I remember the Virgin Megastore.
Oh yeah.
If you live in Orlando in the 2000s, they had the Virgin Megastore, which was
right across from the House of Blues.
It was like FYE but better.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you would line up for a gig and then you say, "Well, I guess I'll spend 5 hours looking at every album that ever existed."
Back then, they had bands playing outside.
Mm-hmm.
It was a place.
It was the happening place.
And I went in there and I had some money, and I was with my dad, and I went straight to Iron Maiden, and I found them, and I was like, "Wow, that's a lot of albums." And I asked my dad, I was like, "Do you know anything about this band?" And he was just like, "I think Number of the Beast was a big one." So I found Number of the Beast, I got that, and I bought one more, and it was just purely based off looks. And obviously they didn't have Peace of Mind because I was looking for the Trooper on the back of each one. That was like the one album they didn't have. So I grabbed the one with the pyramid on. So I went home that day with Number of the Beast and Power Slave. And so I had these 3 albums from all different eras on the same day and listened to all in the same day. And that's why I've always loved their entire career, because I didn't start with the old stuff or the new stuff. It was like the same day, full-on discovery. And then after that, I started collecting all the albums for the next year and a half. And that was another springboard into like even heavier music after that. But I always came back to Maiden as my base, like my home base. This is my favorite band and always will be.
Captain Harris.
I never hated the band.
I didn't hate them. I just assumed my friend was right.
But
I hated them.
My first favorite band, which I heard very young, was Queen, and I had heard like a lot of rock bands because that's what my parents were into. I heard Queen, Pink Floyd, Boston, AC/DC, so I was always like around that kind of music, but I didn't really get exposed to heavy metal until I heard Maiden, and so I specifically remember being in 3rd grade, which is about 8 years old over here, and asking one of my classmates, "Have you ever heard of Ozzy Osbourne?" He was like, "That's the guy that bit the head off the bat, right?" So I know I'd heard of heavy metal by this time. I can't for the life of me remember like specific years of my childhood. So I'm just going based off of what I remember, and I remember being in my 3rd grade class doing that. But I walked past my dad's computer one day. He owned his own business. He did work from home a lot, and he had Napster on his computer. And as I walked by, I heard like the main riff of the Trooper, and he was like, "Oh, it's just this band called Iron Maiden," and I'm like, "Can I see what else you have on there?" So he finished up his work, and he's like, "Here, you can just check out what I've got." And he didn't have much. He had like Flight of Icarus on there.
I wasn't impressed.
He had Run to the Hills, and then I also
mid.
Got to hear like Dio stand up and shout, and like it was just like I just like discovered something new. Like, I knew all this rock music, but I'd never heard anything like heavy metal before. Yeah. And it's like, it's funny because I'm always like, "Oh, we don't need the Trooper in the set." But I remember, like, back then, it's like, that's what I heard. And I was like, I've never heard anything like this before. This is phenomenal. This is amazing. What is this? I wanted more. And, of course, being, like, 2003, 2004, like, YouTube's not a thing. I couldn't just look anything up. I was a child. I didn't have money. I'm like, the only CD I had was my Queen Greatest Hits. And I played the hell out of my Queen Greatest Hits CD, but that's all I had. And I would just like replay those songs that my dad had on his Napster. Anytime he wasn't on a computer, I would just go to the computer and I would replay those songs until, I was about like 12, 13. That's when people really started like putting music on YouTube. And I was like really into Dragon Force and Linkin Park at that time too, because it's like I feel like that was a bit easier for me to get than Iron Maiden.
Well, yeah, also like
they were big back then.
Big, yeah.
So that was like my big tween phase heavy metal, and then I'm like, oh, there's Maiden on here. Like, I like them a lot. Like, I like that song, The Trooper. And so I would just, like, click random songs. And I remember I saw one called Out of the Silent Planet. And I was just like, oh my god, this is completely amazing. And
That song rips.
I immediately bought Brave New World. And Brave New World was the first Maiden album that I ever heard in full.
So your first favorite song was Trooper.
Yep.
Your first favorite song was Trooper.
I don't know that it was a favorite.
Well, again,
it was just the first song I ever heard. And I was like,
same thing.
whoa.
I can't say it was my favorite because I didn't know what I was listening to.
Okay.
My first favorite song was New Frontier.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That I replayed over and over.
And then, like, the first album release that I was ever aware of was The Final Frontier. So it's like, that's around the time that I, like, went on the internet and, like, started kind of, like, getting into the lore and all that. And it was just like, oh, hey, you know, they're just like, an awesome album. What perfect timing for me to, like, really get obsessed with this band.
That was, like, the same with me, is that, like, A Matter of Life and Death had already come out, but
Yeah.
I hadn't built up the anticipation where when they announced that they were going to drop the new single El Dorado, I remember being on the website.
Yeah, they had it as a free download, and they had the game and everything.
The game, and I used to use a website called Last FM, where you could scrabble and, like, it would tell you, like, oh, these are how many songs. I listened to El Dorado 26 times that day.
Yes, we all were excited for Final Frontier because I remember I kind of made it in before as a fan before Matter of Life and Death came out, but I wasn't aware that it was coming, and I ended up going to Walmart on a random day with some money that I had to buy a Maiden album, and they had this little display for the new Maiden album in 2006, and I was like, oh my god, this is new. And that was probably my fourth or fifth Maiden album that I bought, and I just fell in love with it right away.
It's very interesting to have someone who is, like, I would say overall, like, maybe unaware of the entire catalog, listen to the new album and be super impressed. And then you have, like, these fans, like myself included, who, like, knew of the entire catalog, and we just could not, for some reason, lock into A Matter of Life and Death until later on, like, upon, like, the 50th and 60th time listening to it.
No, I fell in love with it right away.
Yeah.
It was
Me
a replay.
too. Like, that was just love on first listen. Like, it was just phenomenal.
And do you guys remember, like, the old website, like the first, where you pull it up and it would be the pictures of them, like, there would be a band section, and you click on it, and it'd be the picture of their photo shoot from Dance of Death would be there.
Still.
And the all of the writing in it was paragraphs written by band members about the band member. It would be, like, it would be Nico McBrain written about by Steve Harris, or Bruce Dickinson written about by Dave Murray, and I was like, this is awesome.
I spent so much time on that old website.
It was so good.
Yeah. So,
And
like,
I also, sorry, but
yeah,
I also...
Of course. Go on.
Just go on and on. I even remember, like, where each album I purchased came from, even if it was a birthday present, a Christmas gift, or, like, I remember an uncle that has passed away now. He actually bought me Peace of Mind, and I had no idea that that's where I didn't even find them on YouTube until I'd already collected all of their albums. So every album was a new discovery all the way through, which was awesome. And
do you remember in the CDs they had, like, the Rock and Rio, or, like, the Eddie
they all had
Coin
Rock and
sticker?
Rio.
Yeah,
because that era was, like, the remaster of the time, where they were promoting Rock and Rio from 2001. So through that mid 2000s period, they were all connected, and if you put them together, they all make the first album cover.
And that's why I had to collect them. I was like, I gotta collect.
Until you get to, like, X Factor. But yeah, I remember who bought me them for Christmases. I remember where I bought them myself. I remember my uncle buying me Peace of Mind and being like, I finally have the Trooper!
Finally!
It was like album number 11.
My quest has ended.
But I was just amazed at how much I loved everything through their career except for Virtual 11. I even really liked No Prayer for the Dying back then.
And I think for an 8 to 9 year old, that was a tough ask.
Yeah.
It's going up against Sabbath Bloody Sabbath for me. Like,
yeah.
But it's, I mean, now, hindsight, now we have, like, different tastes, different appreciations that you can take apart. Like,
but it's also, it feels different when you're listening to something for the first time. It's new, it's exciting, you're engaged.
Right, yeah.
Now, I don't get that same engagement with songs and albums that I don't like as much, but I still feel the same. I feel like that little kindling feeling when I hear songs that I loved back then and still love them just as much now, and I'm amazed that I still love them just as much now.
Like, I don't listen to all the albums all the time, but occasionally, like, I'll put on shuffle, and it'll pop up with, like, you know whatever song, like 22 Acacia Avenue.
Yeah.
And I'll just be like, oh yeah. This
'Cause to
song
me-
rips.
Because to me, each album represents like a little time in your life.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a little thing you did while listening to that. Like I remember playing Rome Total War and listening to Seventh Son of the Seventh Son over and over again. And I remember playing Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare and playing X Factor over and over again on the Xbox while playing that game.
What a dark album for a...
Yeah, well, it was a dark game.
Steph, any memories that
Yeah.
like strike you with old Maiden records? Well, old for you. But...
Yeah, for some reason when I was 16, I found one of those little plug-and-play systems that had, like, you know, like the old games on it, and I don't know if it's pronounced right, but Xevious. I don't know if you've ever played that. It starts with, like, the
Xevious,
X,
no.
and it's like a little spaceship, and I, for some reason, would come home from school every day, and I would put Power Slave in my CD player, and I would play my plug-and-play
Grind
for,
on
like,
it.
an hour while the album played, and then go fuck off and do
And then,
something
and, then,
else.
and then if you were to play that game now, you would just
I did.
want to listen to Power Slave.
It's at the bar up the street. Like, they had that little table, and it was one of the games on there. I'm like, oh, the memories are coming back when I put it in and played it.
Mine was so like at this point I already established that I liked Maiden in high school, and my dad was a school teacher at the high school I went to. So his before and after school, his classroom was where all the metal kids would hang out
Yeah.
because we had access to the TV, the VCR, and we would watch Live After Death. We would watch like the early days documentaries, and just like all the metal kids would just come in. So when I hear like early era Maiden, it reminds me of high school.
Yeah.
Funny enough, like it does probably so many of everyone else out there. It reminds them of their high school experience, because it'd just be us like watching and just being like, "Whoa, Steve Harris is so cool!"
And
look
okay.
at those tights.
So what was the first thing you saw of them doing a live performance?
Rock and Rio.
Me too.
Rock and Rio, buddy of mine that I was in a band with at the time, big Maiden fan, and he was like, oh, like we should watch Rock and Rio. I was like, what is that? I don't know. Like, you're just saying words. And I remember him taking out the case, and when it would open up and it had like
the little
cloud,
stage. The stage.
I was like, what is this? And then we watched Rock and Rio, and I just remember just.
Well, it's a totally different thing listening to an album and then seeing Maiden do the live thing for
Seeing
the
them
first
do
time.
it, I was like, yeah, this is obviously the greatest band in the world. Like,
I'm
I've been to plenty of metal shows. I was into Children of Bodom, Nightwish, Demure Gear. I was into heavy stuff. But seeing Maiden and Rock and Rio, I was like, well, obviously they're as the kids would say, the goats.
I told James, like, I have been obsessed with this band for a long time, and it's kind of crazy to think of how obsessed I was knowing nobody who liked them like I did. Like, back before I met him, like, we had the few thrash kids, and I hung out with them, but, like, they were just like, yeah, I like Maiden.
Well, it's not like that. Like, but then once you find the community, you just want to be part of the community. And I had this thought even earlier today. I was thinking of our friend Madison, and how in Austin, Texas, I told her, I said, now don't get hooked on this. Don't get hooked. You're gonna and sure enough, in Greensboro, I turn around and there she is with her brother. I'm like, I thought you weren't doing any more shows. Oh,
and now she's going to Slovenia.
And now she's going to Slovenia.
She planned Tampa like last minute too. She's like, yeah, I just bought a ticket. I gotta go. I gotta see the end of the tour.
Well, but that's only because you find your community.
Yeah.
You find the people that you connect with on certain things, and then you're just like, well, obviously we have to hang out. We got to do these things.
Yeah.
We got to make YouTube channels. We have to go to faraway lands like England.
I mean, if you're passionate about something, you have to express that, and finding other people that feel the same way is really, it's a relief. That
It's
you're
difficult,
not
but
alone.
then so rewarding.
It is, and like, I don't even know if I would see Maiden as much if I didn't have all the friends and connections that I do now, because that's a big part of it.
This is a big little question. I already lost it. Sorry. Cut that.
Come on.
You can't think of it?
I just had it and I lost it. It was like, for me, almost half the fun of a Maiden concert is just seeing people.
Absolutely.
Is seeing the
I'll
fans.
always
Is seeing my
say
friends.
that. Always,
right?
always. Every tour I say that. Like, everybody's like, isn't it the same show? I'm like, it's not just about the show. Like, yes, the show is the celebration. It's the celebration at the end of the night. And then there's even celebrating after that when you go out with everybody.
So it's the same songs?
Yes.
Every time? I'm like,
I
yeah,
would
but
go-
like it's the same songs with the same friend group in different places with different
Right.
circumstances.
Like,
I would go even further than 50%.
You think it's more?
I would go 60 to 70%.
It's more too.
Like, it's just crazy.
Maiden is great.
It was was crazy. Like,
yeah.
Friends are better.
you go to, like, we went to Croatia, and it's just like seeing like all these people that you've seen like in your state, in their state, like they're all the way in Croatia. Like, my first time leaving the country to see Maiden was England in 2018. And we landed in Manchester, and our friend said he'd be waiting at the airport. And it's like, we got off the plane, and Chris is just sitting in a hallway like how is this guy here?
Like, it
Like,
doesn't
he's
matter
here.
where we
It's
go in the
crazy.
world, our friends are there to have a great time and make new memories. And
Right.
that's what creates the best friendships, is when you got some crazy
Yeah.
stories together. And that's only going to happen if you do crazy things.
Drop a comment. What are your first memories of Maiden? How did you first get into them? And also, do you like friendship?
So we've talked about albums, we talked about seeing them live on a DVD, and then there's seeing them for the first time live in person.
Ooh, do you
So
want
what-
that story now, or do you want to save that for another video?
We got plenty of content coming up.
You do. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Iced Earth guy tells me I'll never see Iron Maiden. Boom. They announced one final show of the Somewhere in Time tour. Somewhere Back in Time tour. So
Damn, 86.
I'm an old man. I got a little gray beard.
Go on.
That's the end of the
Get
story.
on with it. So, Somewhere Back in Time, they said that they're going to do it. There's a pre-sale. Again, I'm not in the fan club. I'm just getting the information from that shit-ass website they used to have. And they said, the general sale will be this Friday at 11:58 p.m. And I'm like, oh, fuck, like, I can't wait. I remember the days leading up to it, they kept pushing. Originally, the stage was mid-venue, and they pushed it back, and they pushed it back. And I think they realized, wow, there's a lot of interest in this show. Eventually, it was a sold-out show. I'm pretty sure it was sold out. Don't quote me. TP will be in here quick to be like, actually. And so I get the tickets. No floor, no bowls available, nosebleeds, whatever. So it's me, my dad, buddies from high school. We all just caravan down there early. Again, I have seats. I'm there at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I'm just having a great
Gotta
time.
participate in the lore.
Yeah, well, it was like, that was, as they say in the DVD, this is the thing.
It's a pilgrimage.
This is the thing. And I was like, I wanted to be part of the thing.
Yeah.
Because whatever. And so I get there, and I'm they got the merch set up. And I remember when they wheeled out the event shirts, and I got one, and they were like super limited. And they sold out like so fast. And so there's these two guys. I'm waiting in line. I'm just chilling. Just like being part of, hearing conversations.
Yeah.
And these two guys, they came from Washington State. And they were telling the story about how, we ordered the tickets. We got floor tickets. They never showed up. So we called, this is before you use the Ticketmaster app, okay?
Yes.
You used to physically
Yeah.
get tickets. So he said, we're about to leave. I'm like, shit, we got to get our tickets. So we call Ticketmaster and say, hey, our tickets never came. And they said, oh, no problem. We'll reprint them and we'll send them to you ASAP. Okay, cool. That day, they got the original tickets that were now void.
Yeah.
So he pulls them out and he goes, yeah, I got these voided tickets that I was like, he's like, do you want one? Like, you've been hanging out with us all day since, you're an insane human being. I can't imagine you're going to do this for the rest of your life. So I'm like, sure, me as a kid, like, I'll take one. So he gives me his voided floor ticket, and I just have it. And then I get the bright idea of, I'm just gonna go in. I'm gonna see what happens. So they're starting to let the floor in. I don't know if they had First the Barrier at the time for that show or whatever,
I
but
think they did.
the slowly letting people in. I get up to the scanner. I have two tickets. I have the fake ticket on top, or the void ticket, and then I have on the bottom, I have my actual ticket for the nosebleed. Walk up. She scans it. Well, first, I'm trying to get it correct. Oh yeah, if they come up, they look at it. They hole punched it to say, yep, floor ticket's been used, and then they gave you a wristband. Then I go up to the scanner. She scans it. Void. Boop. Void. She goes, sir, you're going to have to go to the box office. And I said, sorry, I forgot. I already went. And I take the other ticket, my nosebleed ticket, and I put it on top. Doesn't look at it.
Yeah.
Bloop. Come on in. I snuck onto the floor for my first Maiden concert. And it was the final night of the Somewhere Back in Time. And I met what would soon to be lifelong friends from a website called metalsetlist.com. I met up with a bunch of guys from there, Eric and Jeremy. They were there, and I just hung out with them the whole night, and the rest was history. I was 5 rose back on the final night of Somewhere Back in Time.
Wow.
So,
Awesome.
top that?
Yeah, no, I can't top that. Mine will be much shorter.
I was there.
Well, I didn't
And
see
then
I didn't see Somewhere Back in Time.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I was in the process of moving
Oh.
back to England at the time, and so I completely missed it. And then I moved back, and it was over. So,
Oh, that
oh well.
disappointing.
But when I did first see them was Final Frontier, in 2011.
Nice.
Were you at that show?
The one in Tampa?
Yeah.
Yeah, that, I mean,
Yeah.
singing on 2010 was great, but 2011, to actually hear the album songs.
And I remember thinking like, oh, there's no way they're gonna play Florida, and then there was just like, what, 2 shows added or something at
Yeah,
the end
at
of
the
the
end.
tour, right at the
It was
end.
the only U.S. shows.
And I remember because I checked their website all the time, and that's how I found out. Is I just saw Tampa, and I was like, what?
Remember before social media, you would just like always refresh. Like every once in a while, I'd go to megadeth.com, go to aussie.com.
Yeah, you
Anything
have to.
new?
Yes,
Anything new?
I missed
No?
that.
Okay.
And so I just like ran down to my dad. I was like, Maiden's coming. It's in Tampa. We don't live near Tampa. Can we go? And he was just like, well, maybe. And then a week goes by, and I'm just like so nervous that nothing's gonna happen. And I come home one day, and my dad's like, "Got tickets." I was like, "Yes!" And he bought 3 tickets, one for me and my best friend to come to, which was awesome. So it was a really good memory. And you know, we get there, and that was my first arena show too. So I've never been to like a large room show. So I'm like, you know, near the middle. We get there late, so you know the front half is pretty packed. And by like, I don't know, by Dance of Death, I had lost my dad. I had lost my friend. I was like 4 people from the barrier, and I was just
Living.
I've never like, especially as a British kid, we don't get that excited. And I like came out of my shell at that show.
It's a total.
I also lost my phone at that show because I was taking a picture and somebody went, yeah, right in front of me and just knocked my phone right out of my hand, and it went, you know,
Wherever it went.
10 rows in front, and it somehow came back to me.
Didn't you say the guy dove after it who knocked it out of your hand?
That's how it came back somehow. That was the reason it came back, is he dove in after it, and I'm pretty sure that was Poopazoo.
Yeah, you know Poopazoo on the forum?
Yeah.
He's like 99% sure.
I'm 99% that was Poopazoo, which I didn't know at the time.
What a name. Shout out to Poopazoo.
So yeah, I just left that show thinking that was the best night of my life. When am I going to see them again? And then I met her.
And your first show was?
The same show.
Come on,
But,
then. We were all there. Captain Harris gang rides again.
I was like peak, like after I just got obsessed and I was just like, oh my god. So VH1 Classic, you ever remember that TV
Oh,
channel?
VH1 Classic? Yeah. Like
That
on
show?
TV2.
My parents always had that on in the house, and then I was like on the couch just like doing some dumb shit. I was like art or something in the living room, and it
You're
was
still
like
doing now.
Yeah, that dumb shit you still do today.
a commercial came on. It's like Iron Maiden at the St. Pete Times Forum, and then what?
Oh, yeah. That's what it used to be
You know,
called,
they,
yeah.
they used to use like that voice, and it's like playing
Iron
on,
Maiden.
on the Final Frontier tour, April like 17th, I think it was, something like that. And
And she was like, "What? The final tour?"
I didn't say that, but yeah.
What?
So that's how I found out about the show, and I'm like, can we go to this? Because it's like I was too young with Somewhere Back in Time. I had just turned 13 when that show came around. Like my parents aren't going to drive a 13-year-old to Fort Lauderdale for a band. Like, no, that wasn't going to happen. So I saw it. I'm like, it's in Tampa. Like my birthday was in March, so it's like we'll just buy it. It's like an early birthday present. April's the next month, so we'll
Yeah.
just consider it like buy the tickets now and we'll take you late for your birthday. So that's how that came about. And so I was still like very much alone with my obsession with the band.
With your addiction.
And I just remember how cool it was. Like, my parents were like, You know, when they would always go to concerts too, but it would be like, you know, we saw Leonard Skinner when I was 11.
I was there too.
Yeah, he was there too. I was
Not
really into
there.
that. But their like concert experience is like, oh, we're gonna go out, we're gonna have a nice dinner, and then we're just gonna like make our way there. And the whole time I was just like, fuck. It just seemed like something that would never happen. It's like me seeing an Iron Maiden show.
Me?
That's not gonna happen. That's like a total.
Little me.
At that point, like, it was a total pilgrimage to just like go and see all the Maiden shirts. And I remember like walking up and seeing like the big glass facade that they have out front still now. It still always gets me when I see them. It's like, oh, this is where it first happened. Again, my first arena show as well. And we had seats because my parents obviously thought there would be like mosh pits and stuff and didn't want to be on the floor, and I was okay with that because I was happy to just be in there
In the
seeing
room.
Maiden. So I was, you know, we got in plenty of time to see Black Tide do what Black Tide does. Rip, again, another band that's
Rip ass.
gone.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, I just was totally thrilled, and I remember I was so mad because my parents were like, we need to get going so we can beat the traffic, and they pulled me out before I could hear Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. So I didn't even get to hear that at my first Maiden
Which
show.
is funny now for those of you who know Steph at shows. She makes a point to like make sure everyone's around, like they're about to play again, and then she makes everyone do the dance.
I do not do anything like that.
She forces you.
She forces you. She's like, dance for my vlog.
Yeah, I've never done and never will do anything like that. This guy is full of beans today.
Beans!
But yeah, first time hearing Doctor and everything. It's just like, it's the whole experience. It's everything
Last
I've
time
heard
hearing
about.
the Talisman.
And then like,
Yeah, first and last.
so I was very glad to get that set list. Like, I would have loved to see the 2010 set list, but make me pick between the two.
Oh,
2011.
2011.
Yeah.
Like, I still tell him, like, I can't believe, like, we've seen Dance of Death live. Like, that's
I know.
so cool.
And
It's
Where the
dead.
Wild Wind Blows.
Right.
I mean, we could go on and on. I mean, Fall Frontier, actually, I really rate that album. So
And it's like in Vivo now. Every time I watch it, it's just like, oh, it's like that was like a week before our show and everything.
Yes.
And then the next year, I joined the fan club,
That's when
what
she
was your first
became-
name on the fan club?
Maiden Steph 16, because my mom made it for me for my birthday.
Well, that's cute. Your first username on the forum?
Same one I have now.
Pump.
Pumping Iron 666.
Nice.
What about you?
At first, I was Rock You Like Satan, which then everyone thought was Roku because I forgot to add the C because I thought it was more rock and roll. It'd be like Rock K, and then everyone's like, "Oh, Roku, like the streaming channel." I'm like, "No." So now it's Logan T. Miller on everything.
Very professional.
Very professional. I do it for my fans. Shout out to the Logan Hive in the comment section. Well, from all of us here at Captain Harris Studios, located in beautiful sunny Florida.
Thank you guys for watching. I'm sure we will see you very soon for our travel and Maiden vlogs coming up in Europe, because I'm not sure when this video is going to come out, but we are only like, I mean, it's next month.
Drop
so-
a comment, your first Maiden,
Yes.
your first Maiden show, and also if you're seeing them this summer.
Yes.
Let us know where you're going
very-
and how you're going.
Love reading
And
the
who you're going
comments.
And make sure you're going with us.
Okay. We love reading the comments. It's always enjoyable because, like, obviously we're completely obsessed. So keep on commenting, and we'll see you later. Topic.
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for
Uh,
watching.